Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Sunday night. Sorry, I was watching something on my phone and realised it was 10 o'clock. Hello, and welcome to another live stream. Now, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get into this bottle of beer, because I haven't got a bottle opener up here, but I'm in the mood for a beer tonight. I have got a cup of tea, actually, in front of me here, which I've nearly finished. So I'm going to finish the tea, and then I'm going to move over to a bottle of beer because I'm in the mood for a beer. So, hello, I hope you are all safe and well wherever you are in the world. It is Sunday night, which means it's time for another live stream. It's been a rather quiet week in FPV, but there is a little bit of news. We have an update from DJI and what I believe to be the longest beta I can remember outside of the firmware for the Inspire 2, which took 2 years. But we have an update for the Action 2. So DJI is still giving some love to this little action camera, although they have replaced it. And they finally added gyro flow, or the ability to record the gyro data to the SD card. Now, this has been talked about, rumoured about, for literally it's been months, but it's pre-03 this was talked about, and it's only just come out. Now, I haven't updated mine yet, so we'll do that on the live stream tonight. We're also going to talk a little bit about the new HDZero 1080p 30 frames a second mode, because we have a bit more information now, because Ryan has posted a teaser video. Not really a teaser, he's testing it, being one of the in-house testers. Ryan gives everyone their sort of first glimpse of what's going on, and he talks a little bit about it. And interesting, although there are some things which is a bit disappointing about it, which I'll talk about in a minute. We'll also answer any questions you guys may have tonight. Now, I haven't got my laptop set up to watch the live chat. I've got the live chat over here tonight, so I'm a little bit set up differently than I usually am. But obviously, if you do have any questions, please do let me know. And we'll also talk about these and a couple of other things, because these guys sent me some stuff to have a look at. I forgot to send them my address the first time they asked, but they've sent me some bags and a Digi adapter as well. But I want to talk about these bags because these are really nice. And I mean really nice, and they're goggles bags, and there's 2 different sizes. I haven't even opened the second one yet, but we'll talk a bit about this. I think I probably won't cover the Digi adapter much. The Digi adapter's here. You know, the guys, they've been making the Digi adapter for a very long time. That's BDI, which is British Drones, British Drone Industries. But they have the Digi adapter in the cable. But the bags are really nice. The bags are like nice. And if you're someone with a set of DJI goggles, like the Goggles 2, they fit in very nicely. But who wants a set of Goggles 2? No one likes the Goggles 2. Mr. Steele has decided he hates the Goggles 2 and he's getting rid of them. I've just watched Mr. Steele's video on the Goggles 2. And, okay, there's some things that I would call sort of inaccuracies a little bit in there. But overall, yeah, I think it's rather interesting. Now, as always, please do let me know what you think in the chat. I am watching it. I'm going to lose the tea. And I'm going to break into this bottle of beer. Now, just so you guys can see what I'm talking about today on the overhead, we have a bottle of Conway Brewery, and it's Clogwyn Gold. This is quite nice. It's a light beer. It's quite a light beer. It's a Welsh beer, 4.0, and it's proudly crafted in Wales. So I'm going to try and break into it. Now, I haven't got a bottle opener. I've got a screwdriver and a pair of wire snips. So let's have a look how badly this can go. Shall we? Let's just see. Oh, we've broke the seal. There we go. We've got it. I'm going to put that over there. So, anyways, so to talk teeth, yeah, I'm not using my teeth on that. That's for sure. So I hope you're all safe and well. Just to hop over to the chat, let's just jump in. We've got Expander was first of all through the door. Hello, Expander. How are you? William Tan, Robert Rosser, Ferrajo FPV. How are you? I'm attempting to use really cheap PET G that I don't recommend getting, but it's going to print an EDF wing with it, lol. Cheap TPU is always bad. I'm running low on TPU. I need to get some more Sane Smart. And funny enough, printing's interesting because I've been doing a lot of printing this week. I've been finalising my review of the Sonic Pad from Creality, and that video goes up this week. Elmer Hawk, how are you, my friend? I love the little symbol. We always love Elmo. FPV Goggles. Hi, Patrick. How are you? Type. Hello, Type. How are you? Greg. Hello. Flush FPV. Northwestern. First Slave. Greg. I'm going to miss someone. GMI. Hello, my friend. I'm probably Ken Leaper. Probably going to miss someone. I do apologize if I do. But hello, 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 Audio Geek. Hello to everyone I think I can see. Rasida. Show us now. I will show you on the bag in a moment. It's very nice. Shlake, how are you? Shake, Shalake, I think it is. Geordie, how are you? Louis, how are you? Hope you're well. No, I haven't bought the new 3D printer yet. I'm just been holding back. It isn't a great period for spending money right now. YouTube ad revenue is at its absolute minimum right now. Anyone who does this knows what January, February is like. I've seen a massive tail off in the channel as well. That's largely being driven by a reduction in content, which just happens as you make less content, you get less views, you get less advertising. But also, this period is bad in general in YouTube anyway. Income is pretty much halved over the last 2 months, so that means you don't spend like you did. I still very much have my eye on the Bamboo P1P. I really do. I'd love to get an X1 Carbon, but I don't think an X1 Carbon is truly reflective of the kind of printer that people would be buying in FPV unless you have a reason like Ken Dobo, who prints professionally. I think the P1P is a far realer choice for most users, and I actually think it's probably on the upper end of the price point for most users. And in fact, I would argue a Prusa is outside of the price point that many would be willing to spend. And as I said just now, actually, interestingly, I've been doing a lot of printing this week with the Creality Sonic Pad, and I've been using the S1, which is over there in the corner. And I have to say, the S1, Ender 3 S1, is probably the best choice for FPV printing today. Yeah, I wish it would do TPU as well, Mike. Yeah, but I do think the S1 is an astonishing value printer. It really is very good once you get it dialed in. It does take a little bit of dialing in though, but yeah, it'll do TPU, just not through the AMS. Yeah, no, exactly. But I have to say the S1, you know, it's not bad for the money. Direct drive printer, it'll do TPU. So for FPV, for instance, so if we just go on to the Creality's website a second and we get off that, we don't need the S1 Pro. We're just talking about the S1. But if we look at the S1, what's the price of an S1? Not a Plus. The S1 is $329. That's a lot of printer for the money. I'll be honest. I think in FPV, you're not going to go far wrong with the S1. It does TPU decent. It does PLA very well, and it does PET-G very well. I do think if you're getting the S1, get the Pro, better firmware. Yeah, but you can upgrade the firmware anyway for free. You've got the open source firmware, which is out there, which you can get the Pro. Yeah, you know. But I have to, there are a lot of other 3D printers out there that I haven't tried as well. So there are many that people, you know, someone's just said the Neptune 3 for the win. Sovol's cheaper in direct drive. Yeah, I actually had Sovol reach out to me, and it was at like the crazy busy period on the channel. And I wasn't able to say, yes, I'll do a review. It's quite funny because it gets to the stage. Sorry, let me just quieten the phone down. It gets to the stage where everyone, you post a video about 3D printers, and what happens is loads of 3D printing companies reach out to you and say, hey, will you look at this? And there are times where you're just like, I need a bit of time. And I did have a contact with Sovol, but that person who's a contact is now left. And I actually sent them a reply to the email this week, which made me laugh, their reply. And I will read it to you verbatim. Okay, so I reached out to them and just said, hi, I'm sorry for the delay. I didn't get back to you at the time. And a new person at Sovol reached out to me and just said, I'm happy to hear from you, but I'm sorry to tell you that my colleague has left our team. Could you tell me who you are and your channel's name, etc.? So I replied, and I just said, hi, here's my channel. This is what I do, XXX. And the reply I got, and we're going to probably say it's lost in translation, was, your YouTube channel is pretty good. They are interested in working with me, but they're at their review quota right now. So I've reached the stage of being pretty good. We'll go with pretty good. So I appreciate the kind words. Now we'll assume it's got lost in translation, but yeah, there's a lot of good printers, but I do think the S1 is a very good printer based on my experience. The P1P, I think, is a printer, let me just get back up to here, that is at the upper range of price point I think many people would be interested in. Let me just bring that down so I can see. There we go. I think the S1, the P1P, there aren't many in FPV that are going to want to spend $1,300, $1,400 on a printer, maybe a bit more. And I'm not saying for 1 minute the X1 Carbon with the AMS is not amazing, because it is. It's astonishing. But I don't think it's really a printer for FPV. So the P1P would be the printer I would buy to talk about on the channel. I want the X1 Carbon, but the P1P is what is probably the right decision. And they have now ended their deals. Their early bird deals have ended, so they're no longer including the extra fan, the light. Does the P1P come with a camera as standard? I think it does, but there was talk of it being part of the early bird kit. Make a series of building a Volron. Yeah, I don't see the point. Look, Volrons are real nice, and there's some real nice kit. Yeah, I have heard that. Can you plug a USB webcam into it, Greg? Because I haven't looked that far. That was the early bird. Okay. Their actual documentation is a little bit misleading, because it sort of says it's included. You can't plug a USB webcam in. Well, that's annoying. And I do know their web camera isn't very good. But their actual spec is quite misleading, because it does say that in the spec it says something about it. We'll come back onto FPV in a minute, ladies and gentlemen. But if we just go on to the desktop spec for the P1P, and I think it's a great printer. But when you come down, when I was looking at the main features, where is it? I was looking at the features, and it's down here. I think it's under the specs, is it? Here we go. Sensors. I read it, and it almost implied that there was a webcam. But I'm just trying to find it. Hotbed speed, supported filament, sensors. Yeah, see here, look. Where it says on the camera, it says here, sensors, chamber monitoring camera, low rate cam, 1280 by 720, optional. But time-lapse supported. But it's not, that's not 100% clear to me. It's not 100% clear. So I did think it was a bit misleading. But I would like, let's just go back to it. I would like the P1P. I think it's a very, very nice looking printer. I genuinely do. Although there are some issues. There's no question about that. We're seeing some fail. I have a very good friend with one, and he is absolutely loving it. Absolutely loving it. So right now I'm going to hold off until there's maybe a better deal with some accessories included. If Bamboo behave like DJI, and based in fact that it is run by ex-DJI people, some of the best people I knew at DJI are running Bamboo Labs, including Dr. Turbo, there'll probably be a version 2 in the next 6 months. Or 6 weeks. But I am watching it. And look, there's been some issues. I'm on the groups with them and we're seeing fans fail. You know, I know the fans have been breaking on the X1 Carbon. I would personally love an X1 Carbon with AMS, but it's not the right printer to buy for the channel. It's just not the right printer to talk about on the channel. It's too expensive for people in FPV. I think the P1P is the top end of price for FPV users. Manager Go, what do I think about Happy Models bass line? I don't know what you mean by that. Please explain a bit more. Greg's, I've been using the P1P for about 3 months. Also have the Prusa and the S1. Tell me what you think. Yeah, it's definitely on my list. It's definitely on my list. Franco, Ian, I have some questions about the Avata. Here in Europe, do you need to connect your phone in order to fly it? No. End of. No. Simple as that. AMS is the multi-feeder, Ken. So, to show you, let's look. The AMS is the multi-filament feeder on the top here. So, it will automatically feed... Well, yes. Okay, Louis. Technically, yes. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Do you need a phone in Europe to fly it? You have to activate the drone once, but once you've activated it, you don't need the phone again. It is not like it is in the US for remote ID. That's what I was taking the question as. You have to activate it, but once you've activated it, you don't need the phone after that. So the AMS is the automatic filament feeder, so it changes filament automatically, but you can't put TPU in it. It's not capable of feeding TPU down the rollers. But it's very cool. Very, very cool indeed. You can print your own bumpers. Yeah, you can do. And look, I am a massive, massive fan of the Prusa Mark 3S. That over there, it's just, guys can't, let me clean. There you go. You can see it in the corner. It's got a box on it, but it's there. My printers have been printing literally, both of them, all day the last 2 days. It is unbelievable. Humidity controlled storage. Yeah, feed it, Louis. But it's expensive now. The Prusa is £1,000 now. Patrick, look, Patrick, if you're interested in a printer, consider one of the cheap Creality S1. If you look in TPU, Creality S1. It's that simple. It's really hard for me, and you have to build it for £1,000. Yeah. It's no small task. No small task. So I am looking at getting a P1P, but it's just timing. Timing. If they had the early bird kit, I would have done it today. But because they've stopped the early bird kit, I'm a bit, well, I'll wait. The Prusa is just so expensive today. It's a fantastic printer, but it was expensive when I bought it, but it's now even more. A Mark 3S... this is the problem Prusa have, right? So just to show you guys this. So if you're in FPV, right? So if you're in the US, let's just get ourselves to... Right, I'm going to do UK pricing just to make my life a little bit easier because it's going to get picked up as UK anyway. So we go 3D printers, original Mark 3S assembled. Okay. So... we will start with the Mark III. And this printer is fantastic, right? But this printer assembled. Is this assembled? Oh, yeah, that's assembled now. Is 800. It's gone down, is it? It's gone down in price a little bit. Seems to have. Assembled is oh, no, I'm excluding VAT, sorry. £982. Okay? £982 ready to go. Ready to use, mostly. It's almost there. You've then got the Creality, which is their S1, which you can get for $329. Or if we change that to UK, go to printers, Ender 3 S1, £359. Now, this printer, I promise you, is 80% as good as the Prusa. If you get it dialed in right, it's very, very good. But it still comes as a bit of a kit. It's not too bad to assemble. I wouldn't call it a kit like the Prusa. It comes ready to assemble, not a kit is the term I'd use. But the Bamboo Labs P1, right, P1 Pro, delivered to the door, ready to go, is £679. It is astonishing value. Astonishing value for the money. It really, really is. And I'm not saying the Prusa isn't very good, because it is very good. And you can get it as a kit as well, which I had, which is 718 quid. Is that plus VAT, Louis, or not? I don't think that is in the UK. Because I almost put an order in, and it was not plus VAT. As far as I was aware, that was including VAT. Do not get any printer that does not have Live Z. It's final price. I thought that was final price was $679. Unless you're talking about the thing. But yeah, so look, the P1P is astonishing value. Astonishing value. But I do think it's at the top end of pricing for 3D printers for most users. So, you know, it's complicated. It is complicated. But the Prusa is very good. I'm tempted. If they had the early bird deal, I'd order one tomorrow. I would do it because you need the additional fan, because it doesn't have a housing fan, which helps with cooling. It's not so bad on the P1P because it doesn't have the sides, but if you put the sides on, you're going to increase the temp. Hello, Fly Zone Drone. I don't have room for my S1. When I get the X1CX, I'll be looking for a home. Yeah, sides on, you're going to need the fan, the additional fan, the light you're going to want, which you can do with LED lighting. Look, you can do LED lighting for like $5 or something. You know, £5, $5 from Amazon. There's lots of cheap things you can do to improve it. But I'd also like an enclosed 3D printer as well. It'd be nice to be able to do ABS. I gave up on ABS a very long time ago. I used to do a lot of ABS printing, and it was just driving me mad. And PETG was just the change for me, because PETG, in my opinion, is basically as good as ABS for the most part. No. So that's it with that. We're going to be coming across to that. Now, we'll talk first of all about the new update for the DJI Action 2. Now, DJI this week have, not so quietly, but they have pushed out an update for the Action 2, which introduces gyro data to this camera. Now, obviously, it's had Rocksteady built in, or Rocksteady 2 as standard, but they have finally pushed out the firmware update. And if I can find my mouse, where's my mouse gone? There it is. If we go to the downloads, we can see under the release notes that they have added the update. The P1P does support TPU. The P1P does support TPU. The AMS doesn't support TPU. You could have to print TPU directly in the printer because it can't go through a thing. So they've finally added this. Now, this has been talked about for like ever. So what they've said is update 01040510 adds cruise gyro data in the following settings: stabilized off, field of view wide, resolution 4K 4:3, resolution 4K 16:9, gyro flow version 1.4.2 and above is recommended. Now, I don't know. I do have sticky tape on my arm. I had heard about that. Someone, where is it? Captain tape. I have known, and we've all heard about this forever, but it just hadn't happened yet. Now it has. Now I've got here my Action 2 because I haven't updated this yet. So we're going to see how easy this is to do knowing DJI. So we're going to open the Mimu app or the Mimo, whatever we're going to call this damn app. We're going to open it. There we go. It's connected. It's discovered the camera. We're going to connect. Wants to join. Yes, please. Let's see what it does. And let's see if it says, hey, there's new firmware. Still waiting. There we go. There we go. The configuration area may cause the device to disconnect. I bet you it's giving me the low temp mode options again. Where is it? Let's have a look. It resets itself every now and again and allows me to turn off the high temp mode. There we go, look. It's given me the high temp mode option even though I'm in Europe. Now, it shouldn't have done this, but it has. Let me just zoom in so you can see it. Look, I'm in the UK and it shouldn't be giving me this, but every now and again it does, which is quite amusing. And that's why it's complaining. Anyway, we'll wait for that to zoom out. Now it's come up with the option for the new firmware, so it's showing it there. So good. I'll download it over the mobile network. I got loads of data. It's not an issue. Come on. Get on with it. We've got 4G. What was it? 140 meg, was it? 142 meg. Yeah, it's nothing. It's very slow, though. Look, DJI servers. So we'll let that update. But we do now basically have the same thing that we have on 03, which is the ability to put gyro data into the footage outside of their normal Rocksteady footage system. And it's nice to see that it's finally come. It's taken forever. Now, what has been interesting with DJI is the lack of updates for the other devices out there. I am shocked we've not had any more for the likes of 03 yet. There's been very, very little in regards to improvements. We had that original update on the Goggles 2, which brought the support for the Vistas and stuff, but we've had nothing more. Nothing more at all. DJI seem to run at a much slower pace than they used to in the past. They really, really do. So we're just going to wait for that update to happen, but it is nice to see. Other than that, there's really not more updates for it. Now, I have to say, and it's probably fair for me to say this on the overhead, this camera is actually a very different camera today than it was when I reviewed it. My review on this, that it could barely keep its temp. You can see I've got DJI's hot case on it, which does actually help. And I have to say, it is a much better camera today than it was the day it released. They have improved the Action 2 dramatically since its original release, but they killed it with all of the messing around that they did in day one and the temp issues and everything. But it is a much better camera. It is a much, much better camera. Failsafe has posted something. What's the change.org thing, Failsafe? Let's have a look. 10-bit color, please. We're waiting for 10-bit color next. That would be nice. It's taken a while for DJI to get there. It's taken a while. Just checking down the chat. Do I fly enough analog to have an opinion on the Foxeer T-Rex? Well, I can tell you about the T-Rex because I've got one. My main analog rig is a T-Rex. It's okay. It wasn't as good as I was thinking it might be. The T-Rex is a nice camera. However, it isn't dramatic. You know, it's, what's the T-Rex? 1200 TVL, I think it is, off the top of my head. It's a nice camera. It's very contrasty. It looks nice. But analog is analog. It's just analog. You can't get round it. It's 1500, that's right. That's it. Yeah, I got the T-Rex in my main build. Yeah, it's very on the color side. Image quality wise, it's analog. It's not. It's about the best you can get in analog today. The opinion is it's about the best you can get in analog, but don't expect it to look like digital. Night type, take it easy, mate. Catch up with you later. So, that's the thing. Now, I'm still doing the update on that at the moment. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about Walksnail a little bit. Now, I'm only going to quickly talk about this because I have a video coming on this tomorrow, probably. I'll publish this one. Might be Tuesday. There'll be a few coming this week. I've been doing some testing on the Walksnail VTXs because I think I didn't cover it as much as I probably should in the review. And what I've been doing is both power and thermal testing on the Avatar VTX. So I've been measuring the power consumption of the VTXs, and I've been measuring the thermal performance as well. Now, what's interesting on the VTXs is power-wise, we're talking about 8 watts on the standard VTX and about 5 watts on the small one, the 1S. Pardon me, the 1S does draw a lot of power. The 1S at 1S draws about 1100 milliamps. That's a lot of power to come off a 1S battery. If you're flying a 1S Whoop with a 450 milliamp hour pack, you're not going to get long with that VTX at all. At all. It's about 5 watts, but 1.1 amps at 1S voltage. Now, interestingly, the thermal performance is also very interesting on the VTXs as well. And I'm going to show you a little bit, just a sneak peek at some of the thermal testing, which will be in the full video, which will be coming tomorrow. Let me just find it. And this here shows you some of the thermal behavior. Ignore the temperatures you're seeing a minute, please. The thermal camera here isn't calibrated. It's not right. What I would say is the red areas are about 90 degrees is what I would say. The 126 and stuff isn't right, I believe. But this just gives you an idea of how that VTX looks from a thermal point of view there. And if I flip it to the other side, just to show you that as well. This will give you an idea of how the VTX behaves on the other side too. That was me just feeling it a second. Let's just... Actually, let me jump to the next one, because the next one should be this one without the sensor on. And again, there you can see the thermal behavior of the camera. There it is. And it just shows how it performs. Now, what's super interesting about the Avatar VTX, the main one, is just how hot the PCB gets. You'll note the very red areas around the PCB edges on both thermal images. You'll see it there, and you'll also see it there as well. The heatsink does a good job, but these VTXs get incredibly hot on the PCB. And I mean incredibly hot on the PCB. Now, I'll be discussing this more in the video tomorrow, and not only will I be discussing this one, I'll be discussing the 1S VTX as well to show you it. But if you're installing the full-size VTX in a frame, you want to make sure that it's got airflow all round, around the PCB as well. Encasing the edges of that board is not a good idea in any shape or form. And whilst I'm not saying the heatsink doesn't do a good job, it does, but it's only doing the job of the components it's touching. Something in there is driving a lot of heat into the main PCB. And I need to do a decase test on it next to understand where the cause of that heat is coming from, because interestingly in the 1S you're not seeing it behave the same. In the 1S it doesn't behave the same at all. It's quite different. Now obviously there's a lot less output, 200 milliwatts, but I would can anyone confirm that the Walksnail camera has an IMU? No, it doesn't. Digital FPV. There's no IMU in the Walksnail. Not as far as we're aware. Now, failsafe, you said you've been waiting to hear on... It gets hot, damn. It gets really hot. And we're talking like 90 degrees at the board. Literally 90 degrees at the PCB in thermal probe testing. And look, we know DJI gets that hot as well. It's nothing totally new. But it's incredible just how hot it gets. Just how hot it gets. So, I need to do some more testing. We need to do some more understanding of what is driving that thermal load on the Avatar VTX. And I'm probably going to do that tomorrow before publishing that video, just so we can have an understanding of where the heat driver is on the board. Now, someone has said there, is there a new firmware coming for Avatar HD? It should be soon. I haven't heard from them for ages. Walksnail Orqa. It's been a while. They did reach out to me and ask about the VRX review because I was a bit behind on that, I'll be honest. And they just said, look, you know, is it coming? I'm like, yes, it's coming actually this week. I just finished it. I was held up with my HDZero goggles failing on me. But I haven't really heard any more from them. Yeah, there is whispers of that, but what is... They're working on new hardware. So what hardware? Are we talking goggles? Are we talking VTXs? I don't know. I really don't know. Budget goggles? Possibly. But that's what the Fat Sharks are. So that sort of doesn't make sense. And they've been very quiet. Those new Fat Shark goggles have been very, very quiet. I almost forgot they exist. I was aware something was going on, failsafe, but I wasn't told what. But yeah, those new Fat Shark goggles, hello Sean, have really gone under the radar. You know, if we go on the headsets, you've got the Recon HDs, which are the Avatar compatibles. But I've not really seen any real push on this at all. Really not seen any push on this. You know, we've not seen them try to push this out to the market really at all. It isn't a product I bothered ordering in simply because I just don't know what I can say about it that's worth buying. I'd like to review it just to see what it's like. My camera's ready to install the firmware, so we're just doing that on the DJI camera. But yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see. We're just going to have to wait and see. It will come soon and many people will like it. Maybe a new goggle then. Who knows? It can only be a goggle or a VTX. It's digital FPV. Goggle or VTX. That's all it can be. Can only be one of the two. That's all it can be. Unless they're going to build a drone with it built in, but that's unlikely. Or are we heading for Avatar V2? There would be something interesting. It will come soon and many people will like it. Maybe a new VTX. Probably. If I was a betting man, probably a VTX. Same as 03, but from Walksnail. I'm not sure they can do it. Genuinely, I'm not sure they can do it. What about a combo flight controller VTX? Cadecs aren't known for flight controllers, though. I'm not saying they couldn't, but they're not known for flight controllers. Could they do a combined action camera and FPV system like DJI? Yes. They could do that because they're used to making action cameras and they now got the digital FPV. So they could do it. They could have a combined unit. How it would work, though, I don't know. But that, look, they may have looked at 03 and thought, we now need to combine the walnut with the air unit, let's say. That's possibly what they've thought. The cameras are okay. I don't know what they could do next. All I hope is whatever it is compatible with the current system. That's all that matters. We've just got the VRX. 3-watt VTX? Maybe. A new VTX. More power. Audience mode? Well, that's all software. So, like audience mode, Brian, that's software. They can do that at any time. They just need to work on it. They're still waiting on it. But yeah, look, it's exciting. It'll be nice to see something. I knew something, but I didn't know a lot other than something. Audience mode is 2 months away, according to the devs. Interesting. They've still not tied down focus mode either. The big difference between 03 and, say, Avatar now is, you remember, 03's got the additional chipset. So for them to compete, they'd have to redo. Hello, Bruce. How are you? Yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see. But that's the thermal images from that, and that's going to be coming in the next few days. Now, the next thing I just want to talk to you about is we're going to take a quick look at this because I've been sent these, and I will do a proper video on these. But British Drone Industries reached out to me because they saw me, right, with these. They saw me with my red Santa's bags that my wife made me for my FPV goggles that don't come with cases. So in this Santa's sack, there is a set of V2 goggles in this Santa's sack. They saw me with my sack and they said, we can do better than that. And they very kindly sent me this. And actually, they've sent me two. They've sent me this one, and there's a larger one, which I haven't opened yet, for the V2 goggles. Now, if we go to the overhead, what this is a goggle bag. Now, this is the smaller one of the two, as I understand it. Inside, at the moment, is my V2 goggles. So what we have is a amazingly soft-lined bag. Just to turn it inside out and show you. It's so soft. It's ridiculous. It is just so soft. The fur inside is amazing. It really is. So it's nice, softly lined. Yes, Wes, I'll be in trouble. It's then got pull tags on the top that close up, which is really nice. And it's also got a zip section on the front, allowing you to put your cables in if you want to. It's a full depth zip section. If I keep stroking it like that. But look, it's really nice. Really nice. Now, I need to find their website because I am going to shill it. Because they deserve to have it shilled. Because it's very nice. You know, it really is. It really is. And the goggles then. So, for instance, we take our goggles too. Good evening, Wes. I hope you're well, my friend. And then you can just zip it up. And there it is, all safely inside like that. It's really nice. Really nice. Now, there is another larger one as well, which I haven't opened yet. Which takes the V2 size goggles, and it also includes a nice cleaning cloth as well. Did the first one include a cleaning cloth? I'm not sure if it did, but this one's got a cleaning cloth, which is BDI as well. It may have come with it. But this one is big and designed for goggles such as the Goggles 2 as well. It's really nice. It's like really nice. Again, you've got that super soft lining inside as well, which is just good. If we hop over to the desktop, their website is here. Do you know what? I don't even know how much they are. So we need to have a look. My action camera's just turned off. They've got the Digi adapter on the website. BDI goggle bag. There we go. They're on Flying Tech in the UK. He's got them. They're 19 quid for the Luxe Premium goggle bag. I don't think that's bad. It's really nice for the money. I don't think that's terrible at all. It's really quite nice. Is that the big V2 one? Which one is that? That's the V2 one. And you can get Drone Authority have got them as well in the UK. $18.99. That's really quite nice. I am super impressed with them. It's like a muff. I'm not going to tell you where I'm going to stick that one. So a massive thank you to the guys at BDI. I really like them. Really nice. I will be doing a bit of just a quick video on them. Just catching down. I'd be happy to test yours against the ethics I have. Vroom, vroom. Did we talk about HDZero yet? No, we haven't, Steve. That's next. Okay. I don't want to talk about the subject that's been highlighted, and there's a reason, because it's not for me to talk about. All I'll say is we all wish the person involved the very, very best. Let's wait and see what happens. And as a community, we can respond once we know what happens and then go from there. What I don't think is going to help anything right now is the FPV community shouting from the rooftops about how they don't agree with it or how it's bad and stuff like that. The person involved is amazing. We've just got to wait and see what happens, and then we can, as a community, show our love that way, is the term I'll use. I think sometimes making a lot of noise can make things worse, and until we would know what the outcome is, there's no point it being shouted from the rooftops. What we don't, something I do want to say is this, okay? Ignoring the person a minute, what we don't also want to do is from the rooftops shout that we encourage certain things. We know certain people have far more skills than other people and are far more capable of doing things than others in this case, but we also don't want to be saying, hey, we think everyone should be able to do this, because I actually don't believe everyone should. What I do believe is the person who does these things is probably one of the most qualified in the sense of the systems to do it that there is. And it's that simple. But that doesn't mean you want to sort of give a green pass to everyone. And look, I've been here. You know, we've had complaints on this channel. I know channels that's had other complaints as well, including Bruce. So it will get resolved. Now, the next subject, yes. Bruce. Did I order the True RC G2 antennas? No, I haven't yet. I probably won't. I really like True RC's gear. I think it's fantastic. I know how good the X's are. I'm not sure what there is to say. If I was sent a set to review, I would absolutely try to demonstrate them as much as I could. I'm just not sure it's worth me ordering a set to go, hey, look, I can't do long range on this channel. We've just been talking about something that I don't want to go into, but yeah, look, I can't do long range because I'm in the UK and I follow the rules in the UK. So me putting a set of long range antennas on and trying to prove they make a difference can be very difficult. Now, what I can do is try to do that in a penetration situation. However, I don't feel the need to rush out and try that right now. I might by the summer, but O3 is so good as it is. It's not like it's lacking in penetration. I think the antennas are nice. I think they're very good. As always, they'll be very good being True RC. But also, I'm not going to pretend they're cheap either. Because, look, True RC is a premium antenna brand. And they make some lovely antennas. I have loads of them. I've bought all of them. But I also understand that they're not cheap. And if we go to True RC's website, I don't know how much they are. I've not seen. For DJI FPV, $60, which isn't too bad. It's not shocking. They'll be very, very good. They will be very, very, very good. I just don't see the need to rush out and spend $60 on a set of antennas for the Goggles 2 today. I think the stock antennas are very good as it is. There are times they're going to help. Yeah, there are times they're definitely going to make a difference. But they're hard to test. You know, you're going to have to test this in a certain way. Yeah, very good. Very good. They'll do a very good job. There's no question. They'll be as good as it gets, put it that way. Okay. Have I just seen that failsafe's hoping to get penetrated in Croatia? I'm probably sure that's going to happen. Okay. The next subject moving on. Yeah, I've even lost it now. Okay, so the next subject. Time to be professional, everyone. So the next subject, HDZero 1080p mode. I need to get goggles. Here they are. Okay, so the next subject, HDZero. No, yes, I've lost it. Okay, so the next subject is the 1080p mode on the HDZero goggles. Now, we've known about this being something for quite a while, but we finally got some new details shared by the nice, lovely Ryan. Now, for those who don't know who Ryan is, he's one of the testers. He doesn't work for HDZero, but he does a lot of testing and helping them. And he's released this video, which is his first impressions. He's got bloody advertising on his channel. Shocking behavior, Ryan. But anyway, look, he's got his video up, and he's probably going to copyright strike me now, but he's got his video up showing the 1080p mode. Now, overall, it looks interesting. It's hard to judge anything from a YouTube video. I'm looking forward to testing this for myself. So the first things you need to understand, 1080p will be 1080p 30p progressive, 30 frames a second. It will work with the micro and the nano V2 cameras, as well as the nano light. The only thing, though, you do need to understand is that it isn't going to work with them very well out of the box, because the stock lens setup doesn't look like this. The stock lens setup looks very, very different. And if I can find what it will look like under the stock lenses, here we go. Here, you're going to get a lot of vignetting because the stock lens is too wide on that sensor. Oh, no, too narrow, whichever way around my brain is in. So this is the stock lens on the Nano V2 in 1080p 30 mode. And in a minute, I think he swaps to the stock lens on the micro, does he? Where is it? And then that's the HDZero Micro V2, the same camera, on the Micro Eagle lens. So you're going to need to change the lens on your cameras to be able to use this 1080p mode properly. I'm not saying you can't use it. So for instance, if we look here, this is the stock lens on the the Nano V2. There you go. You can just see the vignetting all around the corner because of the field of view area on the sensor. You're going to need to change it, unfortunately, for that other lens. But when you do change it, you do then get the proper wide view available on the camera. Now, overall, it's hard to show you guys image quality in this. But it looks interesting. Now, there has been some interesting comments on 30 frames a second. I don't know how that's going to feel. It's going to be interesting because we're going to have a 30 frames a second progressive mode, which we've not really had before. But it's still going to be reasonable latency. Probably, I think, around 40 milliseconds off the top of my head, which is very much in the Avatar DJI territory at normal mode. And I don't think it's going to be shocking. I don't think it's going to be shocking. But we're going to have to see. We don't know. We don't know. Ryan was very much, I think it'll be okay for wing flyers. I find it interesting because you get a lot of comments from people going, I cannot fly. It's not possible to fly on the standard latency modes. I still don't agree with that for 1 minute. I can fly absolutely fine on a standard latency mode. Can I fly as well? No, I can't fly as well most of the time anyway, but still. We'll have to see what it's like. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. We've not been in this position before because we're used to, even in analog, having 60 fields a second. Whilst technically in analog we didn't get 60 frames a second, we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see how it feels, how choppy it is, how cinematic it looks. It's always good to see. So if you switch the lens for 1080p, then fly 7020p, will it lower the field of view? Yeah, it's going to make a difference. I haven't seen what that difference is today yet. Can we use 2 VTXs to get 1080p 60? Yeah, Carl does have one problem, and that problem is he is limited to his bandwidth. Carl doesn't have the capability of changing bandwidth on HDZero. I have discussed this with him before. So 50 megabits mode or larger carrier is just not possible on his system today, as it is today. It would be a version 2. But changing the lens is a bit of a disappointment. It's not a problem if you're doing it permanently, but it is the question of over switching back and forth. And it's another $10. Yeah, Carl's carrier width is limited. It's just limited to the size it is. He has no way of increasing that carrier. So whereas DJI can increase his carrier just like Avatar does up to 50 megabits a second, but also switch it down. And one of the big key improvements in O3, and one of the clever things that O3 does, is not just go up, it goes down. And O3 will actually drop that carrier to 10 megahertz wide to try and push the signal through as much as it can. So when you get to the extreme range on O3, and you've seen people say, and I think JB commented on this, that it can hang quite well on 1 megabits a second. And the reason for that is it drops the carrier down to 10 megabits. So, yeah, that's how DJI can do it. It's able to hang on much lower bit rates. But it's interesting. So it's coming. I haven't seen it for myself. I will be trying it. Obviously, I'm going to have to order in a lens because I'm going to need a lens to try this. It is a little bit disappointing. You've got to change. On auto, yes. On auto, O3 will go down to 10 megahertz carriers. Won't do it in manual mode, but it will do it in auto. In manual, it'll stay whatever mode you leave it in. You can set it at 10 megahertz in manual. But yeah, it's a bit disappointing you've got to change the lens. But that is what it is. But it's just a bit of a... It's not just a switch on and go. Someone said earlier about the VTX or the VRX modules, I should say, working with the 90 frames a second camera. Yet they basically only... The 90 frames a second camera will only work with the HDZero goggles. On 90 frames a second. It cannot... The VRX module is limited to 60 frames a second. It's not capable of the higher frame rates. It's really just not capable. Now, that is the main subject for tonight. It's been very quiet in the world of FPV the last 2-3 weeks. There's a bunch of content that I've been working on, which we're going to be getting out this week. There is going to be a video on the Creality Sonic Pad. There's going to be this HDZero. No, it's not, sorry. It's Avatar HDZero, even at lower frame rates. Yeah, well, O3 can hang on a lot longer. But it has been very quiet in FPV the last few weeks. It really has been. Now, on my side of things, I'm trying to get my review of the 90 frames a second camera coming. Or Scout HD. It might be that it needs new firmware. We have had a new firmware update for the HDZero goggles today, which I haven't looked at. That's the first community firmware. Partly down to Chinese New Year. Yeah, lightly is. You know, things have slowed a little bit. Thoughts on Steele selling his Goggle 2s and keeping his V2s? For those who haven't seen Mr. Steele, should we find his video? Mr. Steele, for those who don't know, he's a small-time... Mr. Steele is a small-time FPV guy. You know, just some... You know, he has a few followers. And he's put this video out. You know, I don't really know how it gained so much attention, really. But he's put a video out about why he sold his DJI goggles. I think this is one I'm probably really going to get a copyright strike on. He's put a video out talking about why he sold his DJI goggles, and he goes on to talk about it, and he's talking about his goggles too. So he's basically said he's selling his goggles too and keeping his V2s. And largely everything he says I agree with. There are a few things I think... Look, I think it's pretty clear when you watch Steele's videos that he isn't the most technical person in the world. And I don't mean that negatively. I just mean that as a genuine observation. I don't mean that I'm any better or not. I'm just saying he doesn't appear to be the most technical. And that's not a bad thing. What he is an amazing pilot. That's fact. Okay? And he doesn't like the fitment of the goggles. I don't blame him. They are shocking. They are probably the worst goggles I have for fitment. He talks about this juddering effect as a result of the 100 frames a second. I'm intrigued at that, and I'd like to know more on that element. Now, he made a comment that I need to understand, because he said the V2s are 144 hertz. Now, technically, yes, they are, but they're not with the FPV system. The V2s are actually only 120 hertz with the air unit in Vista. The V2s were only 144 hertz with the DJI Potato or the FPV drone. However, I don't know if they enter 144 hertz mode with O3. I genuinely don't know. That's something I need to look at because I'm not sure. Now, he talks about this judder, and he's demonstrating it in low power mode. And I know a lot of people have picked up on that. Wes just mentioned it. Someone just mentioned it there. Was it Wes? He, though, has mentioned he saw it can see it in flight. So I wouldn't go at the fact he's saying, look at this juddering, and he's using the air unit in low power mode. He might just be demonstrating it there compared to what he's seeing. I wouldn't take what he's actually showing you on camera as the fact of what he feels he's seeing in the real world. There could be a difference, but he says he's feeling it. Yeah, and he could be noticing Bruce has made a real interesting point. The OLEDs will be faster to react, but that doesn't mean it will look better. And as a result, you could have slower response. Well, you will have slower response time on the LCDs. And as Bruce has then said, you're going to have a noticeable difference. Now, would I expect to see more juddering in 100 hertz versus 120? What I'd also like to know, though, is what modes he's using it in. Because remember, O3 is really weird in its modes. So, for instance, if he's using 60 frames a second modes or 120 frames a second modes that was added, he's only going to be in normal latency mode. Whereas the V2s won't. There is a fundamental difference here between how the V2s react and how the Goggles 2 react. So, for instance, if Steele was in 50 frames a second modes or 100 frames a second modes, the system can be in the low latency mode. However, if he's got O3 in 60 frames a second modes or 120 frames a second mode, even on the Goggles 2, it will be in normal latency mode and not look as good. The problem is, on the Goggles 2, you only get the low latency mode in the 50 or 100 frames a second modes. Well, 100 frames a second modes, basically. You don't get it in the 120s. The 120 frames a second modes limit you to 60 frames a second. So it all depends on his understanding of how O3 works. because it works differently on the V2s than it does the Goggle 2. And I don't mean that negatively. I've never spoke, I wouldn't have spoke to Mr. Steele. I think he's incredible. We all love him for what he does. But there is a fundamental difference in the modes on O3 with the Goggles 2 than the modes on O3 on the V2s. The V2s will do 120 frames a second, low latency mode, in 120 frames a second, and 60. Whereas the Goggles 2 won't. So if he's using 60 frames a second modes, he's in normal latency mode. Ignoring the whole low power mode, ignoring all of that stuff. Even if in normal mode, he would be in normal latency mode. And there is no indication on the Goggles 2 of when he's in normal latency mode. So he could very much be using it in the modes that are forcing him into normal latency. And he may not quite realize it because of the additional improvements in the OLEDs. So it might feel off compared. And there's probably some strange behavior going on with DJI on the Goggles 2. We've never fully understood what DJI are doing on the Goggles 2. Now, I need to find the chart I made again. I made a chart on this because I'm trying to remember. See, Goggles 2, so there was a chart I made to explain the latency mode on this because I've even forgotten myself. It's actually in my review. I'm trying to remember the modes you get low latency on. I'm going to have to find it now. We're going to have to go to Google Drive. I am trying to remember the mode. And it was in slides. And it was my Goggles 2 review, it was. DJI 3, here we go. Is it that? Yes, it is. Yeah, see, that's right. Right, so on O3, he will only be in low latency mode if he is using 100 frames a second recording modes. If he's not using 100 frames a second recording modes on the Goggles 2, he is not in low latency mode, and that may be what he's seeing. That may be what he's seeing. It depends if he's using the 100 frames a second modes. I don't know. He didn't mention it in the video. It could be as simple as a misunderstanding of the differences between the way the Goggles 2 work and the Goggles V2. So, for instance, on the V2, the same O3 ear unit will give you low latency mode in the following modes, okay? You will get it in 1080p, 2.7K and 4K, 100 and 120 frames a second modes. Whereas on the Goggles 2, you will only get them on the 100 frames a second modes. If you choose the 120 mode on the Goggles 2, you will be in the normal latency, not low latency modes. And that's the difference. Balquamoses have a penetration with O3 Goggles 2 versus V2. It's hard to say. The performance between the two is very similar. There is a difference in codec, but it is very similar. But what he's showing you in the video isn't necessarily what he says he's seeing in flight. He's just trying to show it there. And I want to do some tests myself. But look, okay, so what do I think about Steele's video? His points on the fitment are absolutely fine. He says he sees some juddering, which he doesn't like. His app stuff was a bit... I think he just didn't realize you could do that. But look, he's not wrong. I have said myself, and I'm no authority, that the V2s are probably the better option for most people. It's that simple. And it's hard to argue with that. The fitment for many people on the Goggles 2 is horrific, and it is for me. It's not great. I've put up with them and they're okay, but I'm not going to say they're a better goggle. So his point on selling them isn't that shocking. I'll be honest. But he's not going to say something on the bench that he's not seeing in flight. If he's seeing it all of the time. And that's a reality. People could, what he showed was just him probably trying to show it on the bench. Look, let's give the guy a bit more credit than that. I think if he's seeing juddering, he's seeing it in flight. That's a reality. The aftermarket foam made no difference for me. He's probably exactly the same as me, that the aftermarket foam didn't help. My eyes need to be closer, not further from the lenses. But I can't go closer because they're already destroying my nose. But there's also, as Bruce has said, the difference between the V2s and the OLEDs on the goggles too, and how smoothing and everything. It's all going to be very interesting. But look, if he prefers the V2s, good for him. I don't really see the fuss. One guy said, look, I'll openly say, largely I prefer the V2s. I don't really see the fuss. That people are making over it. He's given an opinion. I don't think it's that wrong. What's the refresh rate on the V2s to the 2? We don't know. So, the V2 goggles with the standard ear units are 120 hertz. The V2 goggles with the O3 ear unit is the V2 goggles with the standard ear units is 120 hertz. The V2 ear unit with the FPV drone is 144 hertz. What we don't know is what the refresh rate is on the V2 goggles with the O3 ear unit. DJI haven't published it. There is a lot we don't know about the V2 goggles on O3. But remember, what he's showing you on the bench, he openly said he's seeing it in flight. So what he's showing you on the bench, don't worry about. That's just him trying to demonstrate it. That doesn't mean what you're seeing exactly is what he's seeing exactly in the real world. The only thing that makes me put up with the goggles too is O3. It's just so much better. I don't want to carry the V2s. Now, if we look at the specs for O3, I don't believe they actually show right, here we go. So, what we need to understand is goggles to V2 goggles. Okay, so what they're not showing is, oh no, here we go. 144 hertz on the V2s. They are showing it. It's 810p, 144. I didn't see it. I missed that. So, the V2 goggles with the standard ear units is 120 hertz. With the potato and the O3 unit, it's 144. There we go. Yes, it does have less latency than the goggles too. V2s have less latency because it's it. So yeah, 144 hertz on the V2s with O3 compared to 100 hertz. So he's seeing 44 more. So yeah, that's the That's the reality of it is. So H.264, 144 hertz on O3. So that explains it a bit more. Can we see the milliseconds latency in the O3 OSD? No, you can't, Elmo. So he wouldn't even know what mode he's in. And this is where it gets really easy to get this wrong. If he is flying his V2s and his Goggle 2 in 120 frames a second mode, he is going to be in normal latency on the Goggles 2, low latency on the V2s. Both on the same mode. Happy birthday, Bruce. Stay safe. What's also interesting is you're getting 144 hertz on a 120 hertz system. That seems weird, doesn't it? $144 to the O3 compared to 120 on the Vistas. And yeah, there's a little bit less latency on O3 on the V2s. But remember, that 144 hertz is not the system refresh rate. That'll be the Goggles refresh rate. You're going to bring Steele here, haha. You know, but look, I don't see what the fuss is about. You don't like the Goggles too. I don't blame him. I think they're largely not great. They're one of the worst design FPV goggles I have seen for a long time. DJI should have made them bigger. Flight Zone Drone. What about the Runcan Link and Wasp? I have not tried the Wasp myself. I do not know. It's not one I have tried. I haven't really seen much talk about it. I'll be honest. Runcam didn't send me one. I haven't really seen it. It's not one I know much about, I'm afraid. So with a good setup, O3, oh yeah, O3 is hands down better than the by a country mile. Mr. Steele guy's a knob. Hello, my friend. How are you? I hope you're well. So, what I was just saying to catch you up, I agree with the fitment. They're shocking. Absolutely shocking. Terrible. Question for you. If you weren't listening, what mode are you in on the O3 with the Goggles 2? Not the V2s. What you were talking about showing the thing on the bench, I'm not interested in that. I think you said you were seeing stuttering in flight, weren't you? You said you could see it. And there are some interesting thoughts on this. It could be actually the slower refresh rate of the LCD goggles makes it look a little bit better, actually. But yeah, look, I don't really see... Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate that. Thank you, my friend. I think we all love what you do more than I do, put it that way. But look, what I don't really see is a large fuss over, you know, you saying they're not very good. They're not. That's the reality. The fitment on the Goggles 2 is shite. The image quality isn't that much better than the V2s. The overall RF performance is very, very similar, and you're limited what antennas you can put on board. You are correct with the stupid battery fitment. Yes, it has a very limited battery range. You could cut off that USB-C connector, but you would be limited to a very specific range. You'd have to use a BEC, which means you need a special cable, although I'm shocked JB hasn't made a cable for it yet, because he does have his cable. You make a lot of good points. The Goggles 2, as many has said, 4K 30. Interesting. Now, there is some real quirks, okay, on how O3 behaves with latency and the recording mode. So, just to explain this, and I need to make sure I get this right. So, the only modes on the Goggles 2 with O3 that give you low latency is the 100 frames a second modes. So 100, 1080p 100, 2.7K 100, 4K 100. They are the only modes that will give you low latency. Everything else, including 60 frames a second modes and 120 frames a second modes on the Goggles 2, will result in the high latency mode. 30 frames a second will result in the high latency mode. The only mode that gives you low latency is 100 frames a second. However, on the V2s, that is not the case. The V2s can do the low latency in basically 30, 60, 100 and 120 frames a second mode because of the way the displays work. I think people are pissed that they spent so much on something that's better. No, the Goggles 2 are not great. I think I even said in my review, they're not. They have a bucket load of problems. They have terrible fogging, poor fitment, stupid battery, limited antenna choices. I hate the touchpad as well. I'm with you on that one. The antennas keep falling off mine, and they're blurry as hell, and they crush my nose, and they're expensive. What the V2, and this is the funny thing actually between the V2s and the Goggles 2. Sorry, I hit the mic. There is so little difference between them from a performance point of view, image quality and RF. If you own the V2s already, there is zero reason to buy the Goggles 2. I said that in my video. Loads of people have said it. The only reason to choose the Goggles 2 is if you want the smallest possible form factor, and for that, you are giving up certain things like the battery compatibility and the others. And it's that simple. It's that simple. I don't really see why everyone's sort of going, Steele says they're crap. He's not wrong. They're not great. They really are not great. It's that simple. It's, yeah. They're shocking. The fitment is shocking. The fitment is just horrific, honestly. I couldn't believe it the day I got them. But I hope you're well, my friend. I am unbelievably privileged to have you in the chat. The DJI president is back as well. But I am unbelievably privileged to have you in the chat, my friend. It is incredible. I'm late to show. Have I missed anything interesting? Yes, you have. But yeah, look, they're not great. The V2s are a smarter choice overall. Yeah, I think DJI made the Goggles 2. Yeah, no problem, mate. I just thought there is some real quirks with the Goggles 2 compared to the V2s. The V2s is really simple. They will just basically toss it into low latency mode. But the Goggles 2, it's really quirky because the displays are limited to 100 frames a second or 100 hertz. That screws DJI up because they can't. If you were to put it in low latency mode, in 120 frames a second mode, or any derivative of that, so 30, 60, etc., you're going to have to drop frames or add frames. You're going to have to either do some frame doubling or frame dropping, because to get from 120 to 120, you're going to have to drop frames somewhere and you're going to get stuttering. And that's why DJI have done it. There is a compromise for having the OLEDs, because the OLEDs can only do 100 frames a second, unfortunately. And that's just reality. And look, it is I still hate the fact they don't show latency mode on the Goggles 2. And I think they haven't done it on purpose because they don't want you to know of the limitations that force you into the wrong mode. And what's actually quite interesting is you might not quite notice the normal latency mode as much on the O3 goggles or the V2s. Sorry, Goggles 2, because of the OLEDs are faster. You might not quite feel the latency the same, and that's why you might not quite realize you're actually in that mode. But yeah, don't blame him. They're not great. I think the V2s are the smartest goggle choice today, and I've said it more than once, and now the man himself is saying it as well. Or false advertisement like Avatar. Yeah, Avatar cheat because they say their camera can do 120 frames a second, but the goggles can't. But O3 is fantastic. The stream is super stuttery for me. Goggles image quality is not the main issue, but it's never different. Yeah, exactly. Look, mate, it's an absolute privilege for you being you. Does the auto channel switch from O3 work with the V2s? Yes. Yeah, no, I think, look, yeah, it's as simple as that. They're not great. They never have. Stingy rates are for real, man. My rates I have are, yeah. Anyway. Right. On that bombshell of an event, on that absolute amazing interaction from the man himself, I want to wish Mr. Steele the very, very best. I want to wish everyone who's been on the chat tonight the very best. I want to thank you all for spending some time with me. It's quiet right now, but we're getting there. As always, stay safe, look after yourselves. I see you all same time, same place next week. And remember one last thing before I leave you. Whatever happens in the world, whatever things are going wrong, just remember poor Failsafe is hoping to go to Bulgaria and get penetrated, or better penetration, or something along those lines. Anyway, stay safe, everyone. I'm going to try and find the end of it now. I've lost the button. Where is it? Oh, I've lost my mouse pointer. Hope to see you in Cardiff soon. Yes, I need to send your module back to you. I'll be doing that very soon. The chances of a Drib. I think I upset poor Drib. I don't think I'm going to be seeing thing pop into the chat. Yeah, I think I said enough of that when I ripped him apart on Facebook. That was me being mean. Look after yourselves, guys. Stay safe. I'll speak to you soon. Button 1. Button 2.